Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing really well. So I'm back today to do the quarter year crisis book tag, which is created by Rasheen over at Rasheen's Reading and is one that I like to do every year since the tag was created. Because we do have the mid-year book freakout tag, we have the end of the year book tag, but it is nice to take a little check-in 3 months into the year. We're a quarter of the way through, how did that happen? And just assess where our reading has been going. So without much further ado, let's get straight into these questions. The first one being, how many books have you read so far? So I am filming this video exactly on the 1st of April, so exactly 3 months have been and gone, and so far I have read 28 books, which I'm actually quite pleased about. I think that's not quite as many books as I had been reading in years past, but considering particularly in the second half of January, beginning half of February, I wasn't actually reading that much. I was in a little bit of a reading slump, partially inspired by the fact that I was in a production of Evita, and so a lot of my time and energy was going into that show, and I think I was just a little bit tired in January, I'm not gonna lie. All I wanted to do was sleep. So 28 books, you know, that averages out to just over 9 books a month, and I can't turn my nose up at that. And especially during March, I think I read 15 books. Very much, I think, motivated by Herstory-a-thon, and I think I always just get a little bit more of a pep to my reading in the spring months. So I'm pleased personally. Question number 2 is, have you already found a book you think might be a 2023 favourite? If not, what was your favourite book that you read that wasn't quite a 5-star? So for me, I think my favourite book so far this year has been Elizabeth of York, The Last White Rose by Alison Weir, which I don't know if I expected that. Definitely I know that when it came to the 6 Tudor Queens series by Alison Weir, I really enjoyed Jane Seymour. I think that Alison Weir really knows how to write these very quiet, introspective characters who we don't know a whole lot about in the historical sources, but for some reason she's able to just make them come alive and just map out an idea of their internal world very well. And I feel like that was definitely true for Elizabeth of York. I found myself so incredibly invested in her. So even though this wasn't 100% historically accurate, I still felt very compelled. I felt like I was on the edge of my seat wanting to know what happens next, even though I know what happens next. It also wasn't super sensationalized. I was kind of a little bit afraid that she was going to go down the incest route and really beef up the relationship between Elizabeth of York and her uncle Richard III, but mercifully she doesn't really go down that route, at least not entirely. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's one that I'm kind of itching to reread or listen to the audiobook of, but I do have other things to read. I can't just dive back into this. It's quite a chunky thing, you know, it'd take a while. Conversely, question number 3 is any 1-star books / least favourite book of the year. So far I've not rated any book 1 star that I've actually finished. I've had a few 2.5 stars, but I have been able to stop myself from finishing books that I haven't been enjoying. I've had 4 DNFs so far this year, and I think out of the 4 of them, my least favourite was probably Pride, Prejudice and Other Flavours by Sonali, which was a bit disappointing because I do love a Pride and Prejudice retelling. I was really poised to enjoy this one, but I just found it way too info dumpy. I didn't like the writing style. I didn't find any of the characters compelling, which, you know, in a romance, and particularly a Pride and Prejudice spin-off romance, you really want to be able to get on board with these characters, especially because there is such a set template there for you with the characterizations from Pride and Prejudice. Like, how can you mess this up? But for me, it just did not land. Question number 4 is most read genre so far. So I'm going to be jumping to my Storygraph account to confirm this. And yeah, this basically confirms a lot of my previous trends of reading. My most read genre so far this year has been history. Very much, I think, aided by the fact that I was reading so many Herstory-a-thon books, so Women's History Month books. Next after that is historical, so historical fiction, then contemporary, then romance. On my top 5 genres on Storygraph is usually classics. But actually, I don't believe I've finished any classics this year. I'm currently reading War and Peace, which, you know, I feel like might as well count for 4 classics, really, considering its length. No, so far, the 5th most read genre for me is feminism at 2 books. To be honest with you, I'd have thought there would have been more because of the fact that I have been reading so many Women's History Month books. So yeah, probably need to get some more classics under my belt this year. Something I'm actually really pleased about is my fiction to non-fiction breakdown. Usually, even though I'm often more engaged and interested in non-fiction works, because of the fact that they take me a little bit longer to finish, I end up having a fiction non-fiction breakdown that is completely dominated by fiction books. Like, I am lucky if I end up reading 1/3 non-fiction to 2/3 fiction. But so far in the past 3 months, I have read 52% fiction but 48% non-fiction. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep that up for the rest of the year, but I'm really pleased by that. Question number 5 is a book that surprised you. Now, I don't know if there's anything that has really shocked me this year, but I think the closest that I have come to that so far has been Lady Macbethad by Isabelle Schuler, which is basically historical fiction trying to give a retelling of the life of the historical wife of Macbethad, who would go on to be King of Scots. A lot of this is very, very heavily fictionalised because we don't really have many sources for her, but the story that Isabelle Schuler paints of this woman is just so brilliant and, you know, obviously littered with lots of allusions to Shakespeare, though nothing is ever really ham-fisted. And I wasn't sure what to expect going into this, especially because I read Lear Wife last year, which was a retelling of King Lear from the perspective of his wife, who we never get to see in the play, and I didn't really enjoy it, so it was one of my most disappointing books of 2022. So like I say, I wasn't really sure what to make of this, but I was so invested in this. Even though I know that this is not going to be like true to life of what happened, there were lots of moments where this felt very true, and I just loved seeing the little gleanings that you can get off the fictional Lady Macbeth from Shakespeare's play, how they would be reflected in this historical fiction version, but also where she completely diverges from that character. And also because we're seeing her quite young, it's not like this fully formed woman yet, it's very much a child, and you can see, you know, where her life might have diverged, where she may have gone down a different path and what that might have led for her and for history. No, I just found this really, really fascinating, and I wasn't expecting to get quite as invested as I ended up. Question number 6 is a book that's come out in 2023 already that you want to read but haven't yet. For me, I think the two big releases that have come out in 2023 that I'm very much looking forward to, I've got one non-fiction and one fiction. The non-fiction offering being Uproar by Alice Loxton, and the fiction being Secrets of Hartwood Hall, of course, by Katie Lumsden. I think especially because I went to Oxford Lit Fest where Alice Loxton was talking, and I went to Katie's book launch for this book. Both of these are very front and centre in my mind right now as books that have just come out that I really, really want to read. Which one's going to win out and I'll read first? Who can say? Questions 7 and 8 are very much about goals. I actually didn't do a 2023 bookish goals video, though I do have like a little list of things I would quite like to do. Number 7 is one goal that you're succeeding at, and I'm not sure I'm succeeding at any of my goals, to be honest. So what am I succeeding at? Let's have a look at these goals. So one of my goals was to read 30 books this year. That is my goal every single year, is to read at least 30. And I've read 28 so far, so I'm pretty confident I can read 2 more books this year. Whittling down my TBR, I started January the 1st with 64 books. I currently, I believe, have 57 books on my TBR. So it's not going down at a rapid pace, but it is going down, and especially since I'm saying that just after having done my birthday book haul. You know, it could have very easily gone over the original January 1st number, so I'm gonna be pleased with -7 for now. But I would like to whittle it down, as much as I say that every year. Rereading my favourite books in preparation for an all-time favourites video. So that is one goal that I had. In theory, every month I was going to read one of my old favourite books, the books that I have often said are my all-time favourites, to really validate, is this actually true? Because a lot of the books that I think of as all-time favourites are books that I read like 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10 years ago, and they're not quite as fresh in my mind. Maybe there have been other books that I have loved even more, and that is something I actually haven't gotten around to doing. I think because I am much more focused on trying to read my current TBR, which, as we have said, is towering. Another goal I had to do with favourites is to do look back videos, basically going through the years that I have been on Goodreads and recording my reading, but years that I wasn't on Booktube, and basically doing a look back at my favourites from each of those years. So that would be 2014 all the way to 2019. Now, you will not have seen the progress, at least I don't think so, that I have done on this so far, but so far I have done one of those videos where I've been looking at my 2014 reading favourites. That is filmed. It is not yet edited and it is not yet uploaded, at least at time of filming, but it is something that I've started doing because I don't know, I just find it very, very interesting. I don't know if you'll find it interesting, but there we go. I'm very much in a favourites mood at the moment. Another goal was to carry on with individual book reviews. So far I have done individual book reviews for A Terrible Kindness by Jo Browning-Rowe. I have done one for Wearing My Mother's Heart by Sophia Thakur, which was poetry, and I've also done like a joint romance reading review video of 3 romance books that I've read recently. But I think that is it in terms of like individual books or like small groups of books. I've not been doing wrap-up videos because I wanted to have a space to talk a little bit more in depth about individual books. And yeah, I think especially because of Herstory-a-thon, I was very focused on getting videos out about that. I've not really been sitting down and like scripting out these individual book reviews. I know I've said that for a long time that I want to do one about the 3 like library non-fiction books that I've read recently. And I do still have full intentions of doing that video. I think maybe I'm just reading a little bit faster than I can like write and film about. So eventually we will find balance months with that. It's not like I've completely stopped doing individual book reviews, so I'm glad about that. One of my goals was be more organised and less of a flake. I'm not sure I can say I'm succeeding at that. Doing new to me videos. So the idea of this was that every month I was going to have a little video where I talked about books that were new to me. So that could be backlist books, it could be things that were recently released and I just didn't know about, or it could be like even books that haven't come out yet but have kind of missed their space to be included in my anticipated releases video. This was very much inspired by Lana over at Lana X Libris, who does a very similar thing, new books that she's added to her TBR. And so far I have done one of these videos. I have full plans of doing another one and continuing this as a series. But what I've decided is that I'm going to do this every other month rather than every month, because I think it's just a little bit too much to do every month, and also I don't always see a whole load of books that would fit for this. I want to make sure that it is actually books I'm really interested in rather than just like new books for new book's sake. And then lastly, one of my goals was read War and Peace. And I'm very pleased to say I have been doing this because Rasheen over at Rasheen's Reading and Milena over at Milena Reads, we are buddy reading this together. Well, not quite buddy reading this. We're doing a read along because Rasheen is doing like a big books challenge or a big books club this year. And this is the March-April pick. As you see, I am past halfway. Very pleased about that. And yeah, it's going well so far. In terms of big books, I don't think I'm loving this quite as much as I did Les Mis. I'm definitely finding that the war parts of War and Peace, I'm finding a little bit of a slog to get through. But all of the peace sections, I have a lot of drama to them. And I like a bit of drama, a bit of scandal, a little bit of romance. Don't know what that says about me as a person. But yeah, I'm really, really glad that I am speeding through this and having a good time with it. This is actually the oldest book that I've had on my TBR. This is the only book that I've had since pre-lockdown. So it'll just be like a bit of a relief to actually have finished this. So I kind of did question 7 and 8 together. The last question is new to you booktubers, bookstagrammers, booktokers for 2023 that you recommend. I wish I prepped for this, but what I will say is that at Katie's book launch I met a bunch of lovely booktubers, some of whom I knew already, some of whom I'd never come across before. I've subscribed to all of the ones that I got the names off. If I did see you at Katie's book launch, do say hello in the comments. I would love to be subscribed to you. You are all incredibly lovely, and I'm going to put everybody that I know down in the description box, and I'm really sorry if I miss anybody out. That is not my intention at all. It was just really lovely to get to meet a whole bunch of booktubers. I was honestly kind of nervous, kind of anxious about going to this book launch and thinking, just God, what am I going to do? I'm just going to be stood in a corner like a little wallflower, like lots of people that I don't know. But everybody that I met just made it really easy, and it was just really nice to get to chat to people. Also, with this prompt in mind, I would love to get more booktuber recommendations, whether you yourself have a channel or if you know anybody who you think I might enjoy. Do let me know in the comments down below. And I believe those are the end of the Quarter-Year Crisis book tag questions. Always really enjoy doing this tag. It's really nice to get to check in with yourself, see how your reading has been going. Like I say, any booktuber recommendations, also any books that you've been reading in the first quarter of the year, I would love to hear about. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.